Hi, my name is Ariana. Thank you so much for purchasing this course. I'm going to show you exactly what to buy and what to do and how exactly to do it in order to have a successful grow. And if you've ever tried to grow your own cannabis, you'll know that there are so many problems that can come up. I'm here to walk you through that step by step and ensure that you can beat out the pests and the mold, the dry soil, the rotten roots, everything you need to do to grow up to 2 of these. There is a huge learning curve with growing cannabis. This course was specially designed by me for the novice and the beginner grower. I'm super excited to teach you how to grow your own indoor, organic, clean cannabis. So why grow your own cannabis? Why not just go to a dispensary and purchase it from the dispensary? Well, I'll tell you why. A couple reasons. Let's talk about the financial first. This right here is 1 gram. 1 gram of cannabis in a dispensary, if you're lucky enough to even have a dispensary near you or in your area, this can go anywhere from $5 to $20. That's a lot of money. 1 pound of cannabis is 454 grams. This jar right here, this is only about 250 grams. So you can do the math. And after the initial investment that we're going to talk about, you are going to be able to save so much money. Another reason, one of my favorite reasons to grow your own cannabis, is that you know it's organic. You know it's clean, you know what you've put on it. You know what you've used to repel pests and prevent molds. There are things out there that people are using now called Avid, Floramite, Forbid, and Eagle 20. Those are the top 4 that I'm aware of that people are using in large quantities. Why would you want to put that into your system in concentrated amounts? The next reason that I love to grow my own cannabis is that you get to use the entire plant. There's a lot here. This is not just the final finished product. You can juice the leaves, you can take the trim, and you can make butters, oils, tinctures, salves. There's so much that you can do with this. This is not just fun and games anymore. This is real medicine making real changes in many lives. I'm super excited for our next step of this, showing you all the pieces of this puzzle that we need to put together. Hey everybody, welcome to my course. I'm going to teach you today how to grow your own organic cannabis indoors. So I'm going to cover a couple little things before we get started. First of all, I designed this course for beginners and novice growers to create the highest quality cannabis on the smallest budget from home. What we're going to cover in this course is everything that you will need to utilize your indoor space and purchase the right equipment. A step-by-step assembly of all of the equipment that you purchase. An in-depth look at what it takes to properly grow clean and organic cannabis. And how to harvest, cure, and store your cannabis. But before we go, I'd like to tell you a little bit about myself. My name is Ariana Tibbetts, also known as the Canna Girl. I offer many different things, such as consulting and different types of horticulture training. I am a master gardener, a certified herbalist, and a sports injury therapist. I gained most of my skills living up in Humboldt County for the past 2 decades. While up in Humboldt, I also got my herbalist certification and have studied Western and Eastern medicine. I'm also just a couple years away from having my physical therapy doctorate and am a sports injury therapist. Most recently, I have done a couple different personal projects. I recently started Emerald Flower Pharmacy Cooperative. I also have an herbal product line that I started in 2002, incorporating CBDs and THC extractions into my already amazing arnica, St. John's wort, different types of topicals and tincture remedies. This was my booth at the Emerald Cup in Northern California this last December. I also have Canna Girl Consulting, where I offer tips and tricks on anything horticulture. This course is for you if this is your first time growing, you've tried before and want to get better results, or maybe you just couldn't do it quite right, or you want to explore growing your own clean medicine in your home. It is a little bit like eating an elephant, but what I always tell my kids, just one small piece at a time, and then you can accomplish pretty much anything. One important note. Follow your state and local laws, regulations, and guidelines. Unfortunately, where I live, there was recently a ban in place, so there's a lot of changes being made locally for me. First module we will cover is the layout and equipment requirements. we're going to talk about everything that you're going to need to utilize your indoor space and purchase all the right equipment. And today specifically, we will cover your ideal environment and considerations, important tips for maximum efficiency, shopping for all the gear you will need, and an A to Z shopping list for when you do find a grow store to go to. You will have everything right in front of you and you can get the help from anyone you need that works there. What is the ideal environment for an indoor grow? Well, if you are in Alaska in a garage, it's going to be very cold versus a shed in Phoenix. So you will have to take into consideration many different factors when it comes to humidity, temperature, all the above. But we'll get into that in just a bit. So is a spare room the ideal place? Where is it located? Is it higher in your house or lower in your house? Does it have heat? Does it have cold? You will have to assess and figure out the best spot possible. I will give you the temperature ranges in the next few slides so you can decide where the best place would be for your indoor grow. Is it your garage? Most people do grow in their garage in California. If you are in Alaska, however, you might not want to grow in your garage, or in Phoenix for that matter, unless you have it completely secured and have an air conditioner and all the right equipment. Is it a closet? The setup that I am going to teach you about, you can pretty much do in any room. It's just going to take some ambient controlling for the temperature and humidity, depending on your geographic location. Is it your laundry room? Hey, if you have a really big laundry room, it might be perfect. And your basement will work just as good. So now let's talk about some light control. There are 2 stages of growth that occur. First stage is the vegetative. Each stage has a different lighting requirement. The vegetative lighting requirement is anywhere from 18 to 24 hours to prevent it from budding and keeping it in that vegetative state. The lighting for flowering is 12 hours of daylight and 12 hours of darkness. As soon as you initiate this, your plants will start the budding process, which I will mention later is anywhere from 6 to 10 weeks once you flip over to the 12-12 light cycle. Enclosed grow tents are excellent basic solutions. Specifics on tent options we'll cover in the equipment section, but you definitely want something to keep the light contained to the exact hours that you set on your timer. You also want to plan for environmental control. That includes temperature and humidity. Temperature. Very important. You want to regulate the swings. Do not let your temperature swing more than 15 degrees Fahrenheit between day and night. The dark period, no lower than 60 degrees Fahrenheit. Cannabis does not like to get too hot or too cold. Too hot causes stretching, too cold causes all sorts of other ailments. So let's keep it between these ranges and we'll come out with some pretty good product. It's best between 70 degrees Fahrenheit and 75 degrees Fahrenheit. Not too much above 80. I've gotten it up into the high 80s and been just fine, but once you reach into 90s, it's not a good thing. The light period, 70 and 75 degrees again is ideal. Upper 80s into the 90s, like I said, produces stretching. And also, you don't want to forget about the floor temperature, especially when you have little plants and they're on the ground. 80 degrees Fahrenheit is ideal to warm the roots. Remember, the roots are the whole entire base and life of this plant. And if they're freezing cold, your plant will suffer. Humidity. This is a very important topic. I've dealt with a lot of humidity issues, having lived in Humboldt County for many, many years. You can lose a lot of stuff really quick. So during vegetative, the ranges of humidity are preferred to be anywhere from 55% to 70% relative humidity. That's ideal to prevent a lot of mold and just, a lot of bad stuff that can happen to your plants. During the flowering, you want to stick anywhere from 40 to 55% relative humidity. You notice it's a bit lower because there are condensed buds and the humidity can build up inside those buds. And the worst thing ever is to look down after you've been working so hard on growing this plant and you peel it open and there's just mold everywhere and you have to throw it all away. You do not want that. So please control your humidity with a basic humidifier or a dehumidifier, depending on your location. Remember, we talked about Phoenix. We talked about Alaska. I lived on the North Coast. Very humid environment. So adjust your humidity and your temperature accordingly. These items can be purchased for relatively low cost, $20 for a humidifier, $150 for a basic dehumidifier. They can run up to $5,000 depending on your system, but what I've designed is a system that only requires a small dehumidifier or humidifier at the very most. I have also included a document for temperature and humidity guide. It's a quick guide so you can glance down, take a thumbtack, pin it on your wall. You can refer to it, look at your little thermostat that I'm going to suggest that you purchase at your grocery store, and really compare the numbers and make sure you're in those ranges. And then you can kind of adjust it accordingly, whether you need a heater, air conditioner, dehumidifier, humidifier. Play with it. You'll figure it out. It's pretty simple as long as you have the thermostat. Another very important thing I want to talk about is to keep your air moving. You do not want it to go stagnant. Stagnant air creates molds. It allows for pests to thrive. We do not want pests. We do not want mold. We want good, clean cannabis. That is our goal here. So let's just make sure to keep those few oscillating fans I'm going to talk about, the inline fans. We're going to keep all that stuff moving and flushing and keep nice, fresh, quality, temperature appropriate, humidity appropriate air flowing in our system. So a little tip is that I really like to monitor temperature and humidity. I really love the Accurite indoor temperature and humidity monitor. It's a really good one. It's pretty affordable. Just something that's comprehensive. You don't want to spend too much money, and you don't want some cheapy little thing that has the dial and tells you maybe it's like 65 degrees out when it's really 75. Let's just keep it to a nice digital midline system that covers all your basic environmental needs. Let's talk about structures. So a basic system structure that I'd like to talk about is a grow tent. Typically where I come from, there's rooms built, there's greenhouses, there's huge garages, but right now don't pay attention to what anyone has to suggest to you. We're going to stick to a basic 5x5 grow tent or 4x4, 4x8, whatever you prefer, but I'd like to stick to a simple 5x5 grow tent for our specific purpose here. Grow tents are great because they have highly reflective coating to enhance light distribution. Growilla makes a really great tent. It's good quality. It doesn't have the off-gassing of all the crazy toxic stuff. Don't get a cheap knockoff from China. It's not worth it. You can get a basic Growilla 5x5 for about $400. But definitely, like I said, be cautious of cheap knockoffs because the materials can rip, zippers can have problems, off-gassing, so many problems. Artificial lighting. You will definitely need a special grow light. You will need one because these offer advanced spectrums specific to plant development. Remember, plants see light differently than us. The sun also produces light across the full spectrum, from red to blue. Red being more of the bloom spectrum and blue being more of the vegetative spectrum. Artificial light cannot always mimic the sun, but they sure do get close. So with artificial lighting, you will definitely need a good standard high-intensity discharge light. These can include high-pressure sodium or metal halide bulbs. High-pressure sodium lamps offer more red, which support better flowering, as I suggested before. The metal halide lamps offer more blue, which support better vegetative. Many other lighting options exist, which I will cover in a more advanced course. These include plasma and LED. So a good recommendation for this size grow tent is a single 1,000-watt dimmable HPS. This light works from start to finish. To set up a 1,000-watt HPS, you require a ballast, a hood or reflector, and a bulb. So remember, it is a 3-part system. And when you go to a store, just make sure you look for the specifics of a 1,000-watt adaptable. An example would include a 1,000-watt Nanolux ballast, a Hortilux 1,000-watt HPS bulb, and a Sunleaves air-cooled hood reflector. Remember, air-cooled hoods and reflectors are very important so that you can remove the hot air produced by the bulb. You want that glass up there so you can suck that hot air out. This is accomplished with the ducting and the glass cover, so that is very important. There are many options out there for lights. You want to make sure that you get the one that is air-cooled and the 1,000-watt compatible. Don't forget to have a method to hang your light. It's very important. I recommended the light ratchets, which average about $12 a piece. So depending on your location, you might not need an air-cooled hood. For example, if you're in a very, very cold location, such as Alaska, the extra heat from the bulb could benefit your grow environment, but you still want to make sure it never reaches over, 75, 80 degrees. Fans and ventilation. This is your room's respiration system. Stagnant hot air is not good. Remember the environment requirements from above. The goal is to bring fresh air and CO2 into your tent while removing the hot, spent air. You can do this by including oscillating fans that aid to distribute the heat and cool the tent evenly. I really like those little clip-on ones that just can, latch onto the sides and keep the air flowing and pushing it through the inline fan. It's really, really important to prevent against mold and pests. Pests love to hang out in a nice stagnant environment, so keep that in mind. Inline fans help push and pull the air through the ducting and the air-cooled hoods. It's critical. If you're using a 1,000-watt light and a 6-inch inline fan, that should be sufficient for your size tent. Now let's move on to filters. Cannabis is super smelly. I'm sure you've noticed. Don't bother your neighbors with a smelly plant. Carbon filters are filled with charcoal that has been positively charged with and treated with oxygen, so it really helps flush out that smell. For the space that we're talking about, the 5x5 tent, I recommend a 16-inch high filter, and remember it has to have a 6-inch hole to attach to the 6-inch inline fan, which costs close to about $125. You're also going to need ducting. And remember, right now we're talking about 6 inches. We want a 6-inch inline fan. We want a 6-inch filter. So we also want 6-inch ducting. The foil tape is a great way to attach all these items together, and the straps are wonderful to hold them up and suspend them in the air in the tent. Usually a box of about 25 feet. I like the brand Thermoflow. It ranges anywhere about $25, $30, somewhere in there. You might need a space heater. Hey, maybe you're in Alaska. Maybe you need a big heater. But usually a small space heater will be just fine. Remember to pay close attention to your environment and your temperature. Look at that chart, look at that sheet that I gave you, and watch the ranges and make sure that you have all the appropriate equipment to put it back into that realm, whether it be a humidifier, dehumidifier, air conditioner, or a heater. Don't let your plants get cold feet. Keep that ground nice and cozy. Timers and controls. Timers are critical for controlling your grow. We are manipulating light cycles here. You do not want to mess this up. Make sure you have a tried and true timer. A basic timer can range anywhere $15 to $25. I really like the ones with the prongs that you set them in and you can decide when it goes off, on. Timers make or break the deal. Integrated system brains. These can monitor humidity, temperature, CO2, lighting. These do all the work for you and keep you on track. But they cost a lot more. The sky really is the limit. We do not require a system brain. These are very advanced. For our situation, we can simply use one of those Accurite temperature humidity controllers and adjust accordingly. Just remember to pay attention and use all the monitors that we have and adjust accordingly. Make sure you have extra power strips and extension cords. You can never have too many of these. Trust me, you'll always be wondering, where did I put that little extension cord? Where did I put that power strip? I really need one. So just always have extra on hand. It will really come in handy. I did provide a shopping list, so when you go to the store, you can have your list, show it to the person at the counter, and have them help you walk around and see what you need to get. So in summary, I hope that you really got a good grasp on the whole process here. We talked about layout and equipment requirements, your ideal location, light and environmental control, fans and ventilation, timers and controls. Please refer to your shopping list for the approximate prices and recommendations. I made it pretty clear. I also made a video, and I hope it's really easy for you to go shopping. I'll see you soon. Welcome to my local grow store, the Grow Biz. This is a very comprehensive store. You may not have anything like this near you. You may have a small ma and pa shop, you may have a local hardware store, or you may have to piece together from many different stores or even go online. I'm really excited to take you shopping here. I'm excited to walk you through the aisles and show you some of the specifics on our shopping list. So before we get started, I really want to just say a couple things. Don't be overwhelmed and be confident in what I'm telling you. Trust my over 20 years of experience. The staff in these stores is always kind and almost always knowledgeable on every product they have here, especially in a ma and pa store because they are so passionate about having their store. There are 1,000,001 ways to grow cannabis, and it seems that everybody has their own opinion. Just trust in what I've said. I've designed this streamlined course so it's simple and easy the first time around. Once you master this at least once or twice, then feel free to experiment with different products such as nutrients or mycorrhizas or different soils. And remember, if you have any additional questions, I will be here to help you all the way through this process. So let's get shopping. Remember to print out your shopping list. This is very important. And also, this is everything you're going to need. So bring a vehicle that this fits in. First, I want to talk to you a little bit about the lighting system. There are 3 parts to the lighting system. There is the hood, which is the reflector. There is the brains, the mechanics, which is the ballast. There is the bulb, which is obviously what lights up. So I'm going to show you these 3 things right now. There are many different brands. There's an important aspect I need you to look for when you're at the store. We are doing 6-inch air-cooled reflector. It means it is covered with glass and it has a 6-inch ducting hole to attach to our 6-inch ducting. Very important. So we just went over the hood, which is also known as the reflector. The second most important part of the lighting system is the ballast. There's going to be many different brands. Try and buy a reputable one, but the one important thing we're looking for is that it's 1,000 watts. There are 400 watt, 600 watt, and 1,000 watt ballasts. Make sure you get the 1,000 watt. We also want to make sure that it's dimmable, which means you can dial it down in power. The third element to the lighting system is the light bulb. Again, many different brands. What you're looking for is the specific 1,000 watt number here. There are other wattage lights. Make sure you get the 1,000. Now you have your complete lighting system. You have your hood, which is 6-inch air-cooled reflector with your 1,000 watt ballast and your 1,000 watt bulb. Now let's move on to the fan filter combo. Remember, there are many brands with this as well. Make sure you go with the 6-inch. This is 6-inch and about 16 inches tall. The next thing, the fan that will slip onto the filter. Make sure 6 inches. So what we'll need to tie these all together is some metal tape. You're going to be metal taping the filter to the fan and the ducting to these parts, to the holes, and also over here. So this is a very important element. Don't leave it out. It's on your list. Another item that you're really going to want to invest in is the dimmer for the inline fan. This can really help regulate the temperature in the room, and we'll talk about that during setup. I want to talk about some of the filling equipment, the little things that you might need depending on your exact location. First, you might need a dehumidifier. Last thing you want is mold and moisture to build up in that room. And I really suggest putting that dehumidifier outside the tent to control the ambient air. This is a small dehumidifier. This should be sufficient for your needs. You also may find that you need a small space heater, which is easily found at any local hardware store. Another really important piece of equipment is an oscillating fan. This keeps the air moving, keeps it from going stagnant. You do not want stagnant air. You want fresh air for your plants and keep the little breeze going on them. Another really important element I'd like to talk about are the ratchets. They allow you to raise and lower your lights to get closer and farther away from your plants as they grow from small to large. This is an example of your digital thermometer and humidity monitor. It shows you everything you need to know to help adjust your temperature accordingly. Don't forget to get a power strip, power cords, and at least 2 timers. So I had mentioned getting 1 to 3 gallon pots. These are the cloth pots I was talking about. Again, there are several different brands. It's the size that you're most concerned about. It's also nice to have a little tray to put your pot inside in case of any water spillage. So remember, to get the water ready for your plants to mix the nutrients, get yourself a 5-gallon bucket, an air bubbler, an air stone, and air tubing. You put the bubbler onto the tubing, plug it in, drop the stone into the water, and it dechlorinates your water and gets it ready to add nutrients to water to your plant. Before you add nutrients, you're going to want to test the pH of your water, and you might want to test it again after you add your nutrients to make sure it's in the correct ranges that we've talked about in the course. You'll also want to make sure that you get yourself a measuring cup and a teeny tiny one too that has the tiny measurements. Earth juice is fine to get started, but once you get this down, you can experiment with different nutrients. Make sure to follow the instructions on the bottle, but always go a little light. I find that the directions are usually pretty strong, so you don't want to burn your plants. Start off light, work your way up. So again, there are going to be so many choices for potting soil. This is one of my favorite brands, but you may not have this near you. There are many good blends to choose from out there. Just make sure it's organic. Another thing that can be very handy to help with your bamboo stakes are these plant ties. Something I really like that makes it really easy are these two-pronged two-way meters. They attest your pH of your soil, which you don't really need to be concerned about if you buy a high-quality organic soil. They also test the moisture of your soil. So if you think it might be too dry or you think maybe it's too wet, just stick this in there and you can read the little meter, and it literally says too wet, too dry. So what I like to use for pest prevention is neem, just plain old neem. I mix it in my spray bottle, and you really want to saturate the leaves. You want to put a glove on and stroke the leaves up and down. Make sure you read the instructions on the neem. It does say add a tiny bit of dish soap, which I thought was crazy, but it emulsifies it and allows it to spread on the leaves evenly. You can never have too many spray bottles around. Trust me, they break all the time. There are several styles of scissors out there. Just make sure you get a nice, clean, sharp pair that are somewhat similar to this.